Here we are with another session of Quick Math with Mr. Evans, and today we'll be looking at multiplying two-digit numbers using this standard algorithm. I know some of the parents are at home going, "Yay! Finally, Mr. Evans, something I know." And today I'm only doing a video on this one because I'm sure you know it at home, but I talk about it a little bit differently for your students so that they can understand it a little bit better. So hopefully you get a little bit something additional that maybe your teacher probably didn't talk about when you were growing up, or maybe you did have a fabulous teacher that did cover this with you and it just made ultimate sense. But we'll get into that once we kind of dive a little bit deeper. So let's take a look at the two-digit times two-digit multiplication that Mr. Evans would like for us to do today. I'm going to start us off with, and I'm going to start off with a numbers that are going to require us to do some regrouping and have some different conversations with these numbers. So let's go 48. And let's go 48 times 37. I think that's a fair place to start there. All right. And so your students, they do know the standard algorithm for 3-digit by 1-digit and 4-digit by 1-digit. And so initially, as we get started here with this 7 in the ones place, it is something that they're familiar with. It's just, I just tell them right away, when you're looking at the 7, focus on it and only look at it as if it's just 48 times 7. So they do that and they look at it and they go 7 times 8, which equals 56. So I talk with them and I say, okay, well, 56, well, where does this 6 go? We have 6 ones. Where does it go? It goes in the ones place, Mr. Evans. Well, it makes sense. Yeah, we put the 6 there. And then we have 56. That is in the 5 is in the what place? They say the tens place. So we're going to carry that up above to the tens place. So now we have, and we're holding 5 tens there. And then we're going to continue our multiplication problem by now going to 7 times 4. But I always stress to their students to not look at it as just 7 times 4. We're talking about true number sense here. We're really doing 7 times 40, right? And because we're doing 7 times 40, we're actually getting an answer of 280. So off to the side here, I always talk to your students about, if we really understand what we're doing, we know that it's 280. But the reason why it makes it, standard algorithm quick is because we know that this 0 here hanging out at the end isn't going to change our 6 here in the ones place. But we're not done here yet, and your students know that there's 5 tens still lingering up there. So they add that 5 tens, and most of your students are able to do this mentally by now. But in the event that they're not, they know that off to the side somewhere they can kind of keep processing and understanding these numbers so that they don't make mistakes. Because the last thing you want your students to do is work extremely hard through a problem like this and do it wrong, because you get the wrong answer, you did all that work, and now you feel like you've done it for nothing. And I don't want your students to ever feel like they did something for nothing. So we're looking at this 8 plus 5 here, and we know that that's going to give us 13. So we write our through, we carry the 1, and now we have 330. And then I ask your students to look at that 330 and I say, hey, is there any multiplication left for us? Do we have 7 times anything in the hundreds place left to do? And they're like, no, Mr. Evans. I said, so now we're in a good place to go ahead and just write down that 33. And they know it's just we're writing down the 33 because that 0, if we were to just add it to 6, is that 6 going to change? No, Mr. Evans, the 6 is not going to change. And so we have that registered and processed. Now, before we move on to trying to take a look at this 3 here that's in the tens place, I always tell them to make sure we cross out that 5 because we've already used it, and now it's time to move on. So now as we're looking at this next problem or this next step, we are looking right here in the 3, this tens place where this 3 is, and we're not, and I've told your students, don't look at this as 3 times 8. What we're really looking at this is 30 times 8. It's important that they look at it like this because it's going to help them understand why they are doing what they're doing. Well, so when they look at this at 30 times 8, they know that they're going to have 24 and add a 0, so that's really 240. So they write down 240. I'm sure parents, you may have had a situation where you had a teacher just tell you put a placeholder 0 there and then just start doing 3 times 8 and then 3 times 4, and you really just never had an idea as to why you were, putting the 0 there. Well, our kids, they understand the 0 is there because this was 3 times 8, which equals 240. And Mr. Evans, I made a little gander there because, this typically happens, if, when we're doing this, if I'm talking about it, that I always write my 24 in the wrong place. Really, it's 24. And then I want to carry that 2 over as we write down that 4. to where that 5 was. So, Mr. Evans, I made a quick mistake there, but let's kind of blemish that and forgive Mr. Evans for that mistake for writing it there. And now we're looking at 30 times 40. And as they look at that 30 times 40, I tell them there's how many zeros involved with that. They say there's 2 zeros there. So if we were to put 2 zeros there, would it change the 0 or would it change the 4? And at this point, your students are like, no, Mr. Evans, neither one of those numbers are changing. So let's just look at this as if it was 3 times 4. And if we have 3 times 4, what does that equal? That equals 12. And then we still have that 2 lingering up there. And now we look at that as 3 times 4, 12 plus 2 more is 14. So now they're writing down the 4 and the 1 because there's nothing else left to multiply by. So now we have here an addition problem where we're adding 336 plus 1,440. So we obviously do our math here. And we get our answer of 1,776. Hopefully, doing some of these things off to the side will explain why your students may be doing some things over here to help their process or their thinking while they're doing two-digit multiplication, because I truly want them to understand the number sense behind what they're doing and not be in the habit of sitting there thinking that they always have to put this placeholder 0 there and not know what it's for. They know what it's for. It was because of 30 times 8. So therefore, when they got the 240, it only made sense to put a 0 there in the ones place. Well, thank you, parents. That has been my time for the day with another quick math session with Mr. Evans. Hope to see you for another session of quick math, and happy learnings. Continue to make your own problems at home and really explore the different types of two-digit times two-digit multiplication problems you and your child can create. Have a good day.